So we'll be looking at how to create the 3 workflows that's going to clean the 3 data sets that we use in Coda. That is the meeting workflow, WhatsApp workflow, and data workflow. So before we start there, let's start from the project descriptions. That is to understand the project that we want to work on with. That is the employee productivity. So let's go ahead and start with that. And the first thing here is about Coda. Let's see more about the Coda. So Coda measured in 3 main areas. That is the training side, consultancy, and project management. And on training, we train on 2 sides. That is, we train on business intelligence, and also we train on stocks and options. So on business intelligence, we train on Alteryx, and this one is for ETL process, what we'll be looking at today. We also train on Tableau, and this one is for reporting, and we train on SQL. This one is for database. We also train on Python for website, that is specifically the Django. We also train on stocks and options. That is also part of our training. And another part is a consultancy, where we offer consultancy to business management. We also help businesses to conduct market visibility. And on project management, we manage field projects, and then we also manage IT projects for clients. So these are the areas that we measured in as a Coda company. And on looking at this, we can now go ahead and start the agenda for the project descriptions. So the first part that we are going to look at is project description. And then we look at the data source identifications, that is the data cleaning, the data storage, and then reporting. So these are the areas we are going to look at. So let's start with the first one. This is project description. So we want to understand the projects, and the activities at Coda revolves around 3 main areas. So revolve around 3 main areas. That is, we revolve around the meetings, WhatsApp communications, and the daily activity forms. We have the data. And these are the data-rich areas that can be used to gauge the productivity of each employee. So we have 3 main areas in Coda. We have the meetings data, and then we also have the WhatsApp communication. We have various platforms where we send the messages, and then we have also the daily activity form where we fill the activities, where the employees fill the activities they've done on each day. And then this project seeks to track and determine the productivity of each employee based on the meetings attended, company WhatsApp communications, and the output of the daily activity form. So we'll be tracking now the productivity of each employee based on the 3 data set. So let's go ahead and look at the next part, which is how this data set look like. So we can start with the meetings attended, describing what's happening on this side. So each employee is expected to attend specific meetings which are recorded. And the attendance history can determine how active employee is. So that is on the meetings attendance. We have various meetings that we do attend, that employees attend on the daily basis, and all the meetings are recorded. And this is going to make up one of the data set that's we are going to use to gauge the productivity of each employee. We also have WhatsApp communication, and this one Coda has various WhatsApp platforms where communication on different aspects of business take place. So we also use this site. We also gauge the productivity of employee based on how active is he or she on WhatsApp platforms, how active in terms of sending or communicating on these different WhatsApp platforms. And then we also have the last data set, which is the daily activity form. And these are the update on the daily basis with the points earned from the daily activities. So this eventually determines the pay at the end of the month. So we also have the DAF, that is the daily activity forms. These are forms that each employee do fill, that is based on the activities that he or she have done on each day. And then this tab is going to determine a pay at the end of the month, that is of each employee. So let's now go ahead and look at the next part, which is we want to look at the project diagram. And then we have a process of cleaning data, also extracting the data, storing the data, and finally developing reports. So this is a project diagram. The first part is the data source, where we identify the data that we want to use. Another data source, we have three different types of data as we have seen. We have the meeting data, which is in Excel format. We also have WhatsApp data, which is in text format. Then we have the DAF data, which is in Excel format. So all these data set now are subjected to ETL process. And then under ETL process, we have process. We have the development part, where we develop the workflows. After developing, we subject this to testing to see if it meets the requirement that was outlined. If it meets the requirement, then we can take now to the next step, which is the production. And this process, we use these tools. We use the Alteryx, the data stage, and the SSIS. But for our case, we will be using Alteryx tool. That is for today's demonstration. And then again, on this side, we subject to testing to check for the requirement. If it doesn't meet the requirement, then we take it back and check on the development if it was designed in the way they were supposed to be designed. So that is the next step. We subject to ETL, that is extract, transform, and load. We extract the data from the data source, we transform it, and then load in a way that we can now store the data in the next part, which is the database. So once now we have a clean data, then we can now take this data to the database for storage. We have a storage site where we develop database. And then this one, we develop the database, and then we create database. We now insert this information, and then we now develop a store procedure where we'll be extracting the data, we'll be picking or now using the data in reporting parts. So once we develop the database, we take on to the next part, which is testing, and then we test if it meets the requirement. Then we take to production. And in database, we use these tools. We use the SQL Server, we use the Azure and the Oracle. But for our case, we'll be using this SQL Server. So that is the next step. And then the final step is now to develop reports. We want to visualize now what the data is talking about. We want now to understand the data. We want to gauge the productivity of each employee based on the data set. In that case, we develop reports. These are the dashboards. And then we develop the reports that is on the development part, and then we subject to testing. We check if the reports meets the requirement, and then if it meets, then we take to the production part to be used, that is for consumption. And then we will be using these tools, that is set up to tool, the Power BI, and the MicroStrategy. But for our case, today we'll be using the Tableau. So this is our project diagram process. This is how we subject this data set in this process. But today, on this session, we will be focusing on the second process, which is an ETL process, trying to clean the data set from the source. So let's now go ahead and look at the next part. So the next part is the methodology. We normally have different methodology when dealing with any task or any activity or any projects. We have the agile methodology, we have the waterfall methodology, and we do apply those kinds of methodology in different aspects depending on the kind of projects you are working on. For our case today, that is the projects of employee productivity, we will be using agile methodology, and we want now to see how agile methodology works. So under agile methodology, we subdivide the projects into smaller and manageable portions, so that it can be easier to meet the requirement set out. So that is what agile methodology do. We try to subdivide the project into smaller parts. and these smaller parts will be easier to work on, to manage. And then we'll be working on each smaller parts, following the requirement of each smaller parts until when we finally accomplish the whole projects. For example, here you can see we have employee productivity. These are our projects. So we break down these projects into three parts, into releases. That is release 1, release 2, release 3. And release 1 is the reporting part. Release 2 is the database side. And then ETL side is release 3. So once we break down into releases, then we go ahead and break down releases into sprints. So release 1, which is report, we break down into 2. That is the landing page, the executive work report. We also break down into meeting reports, into WhatsApp reports, into different reports, because this release 1 is report. So we subdivide into various sprints. So we also do the same to the release 2, which is the database. We subdivide into sprints, sprint 3, sprint 4, data sprints. So for example, database creation, retrieval of information, store procedure, and also database and inserting data to the database. So we subdivide also the database into various sprints. We also do the same to the ETL. We subdivide into the ETL into various workflow, the meeting workflow, the DAF workflow. We can subdivide WhatsApp workflow. So that is under sprints, and then sprints is further subdivided into stories. Or this one basically to explain, sprint has various stories. Stories in this case means requirements. For example, sprint 1 landing page has, for example, 3 stories: story 1, story 2, and story 3. These are basically the requirements. We have various requirements that landing page has to meet. So we may want to now subdivide into various stories or various requirements. So executive overview report, that is sprint 2, can also have various stories. Same to database creation, various stories. And then in this case, we will be working on each part. On the sprint 1, which is landing page, we worked on sprint 2, sprint 3. Then from there, we now have a release, that is reports in total. And then we also have database after working on this various sprint. And then finally, when we combine the two, we'll be having employee productivity report. So you see how the agile methodology works. It's just breaking down the whole project into a smaller manageable portion so that it can be easily made. So this is how agile methodology work. So let's now go ahead and look at the next part, which is the data source. And then I think we have looked at this. So let's just go through. We have seen that we have the meetings data, we have the WhatsApp data, and then the DAF data. Meeting data is in format of Excel, WhatsApp data is in text format, and then the DAF data is in Excel format. Then technologies used here is Microsoft Excel, because this is in Excel format. This one is not bad because this is in text format. Then this is also Microsoft Excel because this is in Excel format. So that is the 3 data set. And then let's now go ahead and look at the next thing, which is data cleaning. Now data cleanings follow various process, and that is what we are going to look at on today's session. So the data cleaning process will involve the following. The first part is reading in different data formats that include we read in from the source. That is, we read in the meetings data, the WhatsApp data, the DAF data. And then 2, we transform, that is transforming these different files into the right format. And then this will be achieved by use of the Alteryx tool. So these are what we are going to do today. That is what our session today involves. So these are the different data set that we are going to try to clean using the Alteryx tool. So let's now go ahead and then start. The first part we also have testing first here, and then testings and storage. So the first thing under testing is ensure the clean data meets the outlined requirement by formulating the test scenarios and conducting the test validations. So that is under testing, we ensure the clean data meets the outline requirement. We'll be also checking on this by formulating the test scenarios and conducting the test validation. Then on storage, we verified a data is stored in a database, and this database is used to update the report. So that is the storage and testing. So let's look at some of the reports that we will be creating later on. We have the landing page report. This is going to take us to various reports. These are buttons. When you click, it's going to take you to other reports. We have the executive of reports, the meetings attendance report, WhatsApp chats report, the DAF records reports. So we also that is some of the reports that we'll be creating on later on. So this is a summary of what we have just talked about. On the project description, we have seen that the project seeks to track and determine the productivity of each employee based on the meetings attended, the company WhatsApp communication, and the output of the daily activity form. Then the data source. In the data source, we have seen in Quota, we have three sources of meetings, that is meetings attendance, the WhatsApp chat communication, and then the data. And then we have also looked at the agile methodology, and then we have seen that this methodology tries to subdivide the projects into release, then release into sprints, and then each sprint is assigned stories to each sprint to make it easier to meet all the requirements at each level. And then other data cleaning, data is read and transformed into the right format by passing it through the ETL process. And then on testing, we say that we need to formulate a test scenarios and then the test scripts, and then conduct the test validation to confirm whether the sets of the requirement outlined earlier has been made. And then under storage, you have also say create a central location for storage of clean data for ease of retrieval whenever need arises. Then on reporting, we say we need to use the stored data to update the reports to help the management visualize and make decision on employee productivity. And then deploy the reports on the Tableau server, that is Tableau server for consumption. That is summary of what we have just talked about. So let's now go ahead and start the other side for the data cleaning, that is the ETL process. That is the first part of these projects to clean the data and then to develop the database or storage where will central location help storing the data for ease of retrieval. Then we now have the reporting part. So today we'll be starting with the that is data cleaning. So on data cleaning, we need to clean the three data sets. That is the meetings data, the WhatsApp data, and also the DAF data.
This conference will now be recorded.
Right. So we now want to see how to cleanse the three data set. That is the WhatsApp data, the DAF, and also that is the meetings data. So the first thing, you can start the preview. So the preview is going to start with the business use case. We looked at the quick data overview, and then also the Alteryx overview, and then the requirement. So we now start with the meetings data workflow, and then we clean the DAF data, and then finally we developed a WhatsApp data workflow. These are the agenda of what we are going to do today. So starting with the first part, which is the business use case. And normally when we are designing the business use case, we need to answer several questions. that will enable us to establish requirements and refine the requirement before going to the development part. So on business use case, we try to answer this question. The first question is a question of what? That is, what is the business use case? And then this one is to process and clean the data pertaining to quarter meetings, WhatsApp messages, and then the data points, which will be used to develop reports in Tableau. So that is the business use case. And there's also a question of who, that is, who has interest in this information, which is quarter management. So let's look at another question, which is a question of how, that is, how should the use case, how should the information be presented to users? So this is by creating the data cleaning workflows in Alteryx and then clean. So we'll be developing these workflows, that is the meetings attendance data workflow, the WhatsApp chats data workflow, and then the data records data workflow. And then there's also a question of why. That is, why should this use case be of interest to users? So this is to meet the user requirement as outlined in the subsequent slides. So that is now answering the question. So we'll be looking at this on the next slide. So let's go ahead and look at that. So we'll be starting with the data cleaning. And then the first thing we want to look at here is the columns that we have in the data set. We have these columns. We have here we have the activity. We have the activity. We don't have the task on the current data set. Here we have the activity. So we have here the activity on the current data. So we have the submission date. We have the quantity. We have the maximum quantity, the deadline date, the late penalty, the maximum earnings, and premiums. So this is the current columns that we have. Then these are the required columns that we need to have at the end of the workflow. We need now to break down this activity into two. We need to have the task column, the sub-task column. We need to have the quantity. We also need to have the submission date, the deadline date, late penalty, earnings, maximum earnings, and then the first name. So that is what we need to have at the end of the DAF workflow. So let's now go ahead and then look at the next part, which is the sample and the requirement of the DAF data. So here we have the requirement. The first requirement is I want to have the following columns as described below. These are the columns that we need to have at the end of the workflow. That is, we need to have the task column, sub-task column, the quantity, maximum quantity, submission date, deadline date, late penalty, maximum earnings, first name, and then last name, and departments. Then this one is so that I can have a clean data set with the columns listed. So we need to have the task column, the sub-task, quantity, maximum quantity, submission date, deadline date, late penalty, maximum earnings, first name, and then last name. So this is what we will be doing. So before we look at more requirement, let's just go ahead and look at the next part, which is the next data set. So we want to look at the other data set, which is also the meetings. We'll also be developing the meetings workflow. So, and these are the data set and how it looks like when you open this data set. We have these columns here. We have the names of participants, and then the meeting date. We also have the meeting type, the meeting durations, and then the meeting topic. So these are some of the columns that are there in the meetings data. We also have another thing here. We also have a sample meetings data columns. So we have seen some of the columns, and these are the columns. We have the number of meetings, columns, the name of participant, columns, participant positions, year, a month, And then we also have meeting date, meeting type, meeting duration, meeting facilitator, and then office locations. And then meeting starter columns are this. We only want to go ahead and then clean, make sure the data sets that are here are clean. So we'll be developing a workflow that's going to be cleaning this data set. So let's go ahead and look at the next part, which is a requirement. So we have looked at the requirements. I want to have the data with the following columns: year, month, meeting date, meeting type, meeting duration, meeting facilitator, office location, meeting hub link, meeting topic, participants, first name and the last name, and then participants positions. And we'll be looking at more requirements on that. So this is a wireframe that we'll be developing. So let's look at the last data set, which is the WhatsApp data workflow. And these are the columns that we have on WhatsApp. We have the current, these are the current columns. We have the date, the time, the holder, the sender, and then the message. Then these are the required columns at the end of the workflow. For workflow, you'll have these columns: first name, platform name, date, time, and message. So this is a sample WhatsApp data. So before we clean the data set, this is how it looks like just when we extract from the source. So we have in this format, we have the date, and between the date and time is a comma separating the two. Then between the time and the sender is a dash or an hyphen separating the two. Then we have a colon separating the sender and the message. So we'll be trying to remove this kind of messages that are there, the media messages, the messages that are linked, and all other necessary messages. We'll be seeing how to create a workflow to remove those kinds of messages and have a clean columns. So this is the requirements. The first requirement here is I want to split the data into the following columns. That is first name column, platform name, date, time, and message, so that I can have a clean data set with the columns. That is the name of the sender, the date and time, and message. And then I also want to rename the column, split it with the following name: first name, platform name, date, time, and message, so that I can have a clean data set with the specified columns. So that these are requirements. So let's look at more requirement and how to determine some of the questions, some of the questions on requirement using the planning book. Okay, so these are the requirements. We have the first part, which is we have the story ID, and then have the story ID, and then we have assigned each requirement to story IDs, and then the business function is an ETL function that is extract, transform, and load, and then as a business user. So I want to have the following columns as described. This for the task column. That is the task, sub-task, quantity, maximum quantity, submission date, deadline date, late penalty, maximum earnings, earning, first name and last names. So we have listed the requirements here, then so that we can now solve these reasons here. Then we have also assigned the column for the priority. So we have those that are critical, that with a high priority. We have assigned the priority to each requirements. So these are all the requirements for the three workflows, for the DAF data, for the WhatsApp data here, for the message, and then for the meetings. So scrolling to the far end, we have these columns here. We have the priority, and then also we have the story point. So these story points is trying to answer a question of when do we need these requirements, and this one is determined in the planning broker. So opening the PPR, This is a product backlog refinement. We have now this this template here containing now these requirements and unrefined requirement and then refined requirement. So the first part here is a story ID also, and we have assigned to this requirement, and then reporting requirement in an ETL, then as a developer. So under undefined requirement for WhatsApp is I want to have the following columns. So we want to have this column name, that is first name, platform name, date, time, and message. And then we have the questions here. We have the question of which, what, who, where, when, how, and why. So a question of which or what's the output? The output should be first name, platform name, date, time, and message. And who need this output is the quota management. Then where will it be located? That's a question of where, as part of the clean WhatsApp data. And then when will it be done? To be done in the planning broker. So we'll be demonstrating this one in the planning broker. And how will it be done? We'll be using the Alteryx. And why do we need this? Is to be used in the Tableau reports. So once we subject this undefined requirement on these questions, we get the answers. So once we get the answers, we'll now be able to develop now or to design the refined requirement here. So for example, the defined requirement now for this is as a developer, I want to have first name, platform names, date, time, and message column as part of the clean WhatsApp data using the Alteryx so that I can use it in the Tableau reports. So that is now the defined requirements after subjecting this undefined requirement to these questions and getting the answers. So on this side now, we can now go ahead and discuss on this question of where, see how will it be done in planning broker. There are several ways of making decisions. For our case, let's see how to use a planning broker to make decision of when will this requirement be done, or when are we expecting this requirement to be accomplished. So this now I'm going to open a planning broker site. So I open a planning broker. So that is the playplanningboker.com. That is the site where we'll be logging into. So here, playplanningboker.com. We want to go ahead and see how to make decision on this site. So we provide the email and then the password you log in, or if you have not logged in, you can create a new account so that you now be able to log in. So you provide your email and then password, and then you can go ahead and log in. And then when you log in, we now want to start making decision. We make decision by creating a game. That requirement will be creating a game. So click on create a game. And the game here is depending on what we want to decide on. So you give a name based on what we want. So for this case, we want to discuss a question of when will this workflow be required, or this requirement be accomplished. And this is a requirement of Alteryx. So today's say Alteryx workflow. That's Alteryx workflow. So we have various other information here, so we will ignore them and just go to the last part, which is save and start. So once we now save and start, then this is the platform. So it looks like we have this various site. We have the invite buttons here, that is to invite members who are going to make decisions. So when you click on this, it will be able to generate a link for you. So we just copy this link and send to other members. We send it via the email, via the WhatsApp, via any other sites, and then the members will be able to click on the link, and it will just be able to come in to join this site, so that you all decide, make decision on this planning broker. So you click that because now I don't want to invite the members, because I just want to demonstrate how it works. So now, once you invite the members, then we now bring in the requirements we want to discuss, and that we will be adding a story. So we click add a story. So we want what do we want to discuss? So we go to the requirement site here, and then we copy the requirement. So as a developer, I want to have the first name, platform name, date, time, and message column as part of the clean WhatsApp data using Alteryx so that I can use it in the Tableau report. So I go ahead and copy that. That is a story. So I paste there. So this is what we are going to discuss on. I save the game, or that is the story. So we now want to go ahead and determine, discuss with the members when will this requirement be done. So to do that, I go ahead and start again. So click on start again, and then we have these various options on this. These are the options that members can discuss on. We have 0, 1, 2. We have this. So we assign meanings to these numbers. You may say 0 may mean maybe this requirement may take some hours. The 1 to mean maybe this may take a day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, and so forth. So each member will be able to decide to make his decision by just voting on one number. All right, so each person now will be able to make decision by just voting on this number. So let me go ahead and vote any number 3, and let's say I want maybe this requirement will take 3 days to be completed. So I may vote 3. Another person may vote another number. Clicking on this. So in this case, I vote 3. So when you vote 3, then when now members vote, then we go ahead and flip the cards. And when we do so, now the planning broker will be able to give us the score here. So this score will calculate maybe the average of all the votes. As you can see, this one gives us 3 because I only vote 3. So it's going to give us average of all the votes, and then we'll be able to give us the score there. So that is how to make decision on the planning broker. And looking at this, then we can now go ahead to the next part of development part. So let's go ahead now and develop these workflows. I'm going to open the Alteryx tool so that we see how to start. So looking at the overview of Alteryx, we have various sections here. We have the topmost part. This part is called the toolbar. It contains the various tools that we will be using. We have the favorites tool, the in and out tool, preparation tool, the join tools, the bus tools, the transform, SDK example, and also you'll be able to add other tools on that sections. So we also have this left part, which is this is called the configuration. We'll be doing our configuration on that site. And then we also have this section. This section is called the canvas. We will be dropping the tools on this site. And then we have the bottom part. This is called the preview. We'll be checking on the results. We'll be viewing the results on these sections. So let's go ahead and start cleaning or developing workflows on this site. Let's go ahead and now start developing workflow. See how we'll be using each of these tools. We have these various tools. So we'll be checking on how to do cleanings, develop workflows that will be able to clean different data types. So we'll be working on each workflow. We'll be working on each workflow individually. That is the meeting workflow. We also worked on the WhatsApp workflow, and then finally the DAF data cleaning workflow. So we can start. So the first thing is to bring in the data set from the source to the Alteryx tool. So we want to bring in, we can start with the meeting. So we want to bring in the meetings data here so that you can now go ahead and clean. So to do that, we are going to bring in an input data tool. And then the input data tool, we go ahead and check. So we click on this drop down arrow so that we locate the data set. So you now select the location where you want to extract the data from. So we have various sections here where we can connect the data sets. We have the files, the data source, and then also maybe from the gallery. So let's bring it from the files. And then here, the data sets are in Excel format. So I just select on Excel, Microsoft Excel. So we have now the data set. So I'm going to select it. So I want to clean the meetings data. So let me try to locate this data set. So this is the data set, employee data set. So I opened. So employee data set contain various data. Okay, let me use another type of data sets here. Let me use another data set. All right, so this is the data set, the meetings attendance tracker. So we want to select the meetings data, which is the summary meetings attendance tracker. So this is the data that I want to go ahead and clean. So you select it and then go ahead and clean, click OK. So this is an overview. This one is going to give you the first 100 items on this side on the overview. So I just go ahead and run. So run the workflow. So this is the output when you run. We have some null columns, and then we have now this information: the number of meetings, the name of participant, participants' positions. These are column for the year, so we'll be adding the column there, column name, the month. We have the meeting date, meeting type, the meeting duration, meeting facilitator, office location, meeting uplink, and meeting topic. So the first thing we want to do is to do away with these null columns. We'll unselect all these columns. Then we have also null columns and null rows. You can scroll to the bottom. We also have null rows. We'll be doing away with that. So let's start by unselecting these null columns. So let me hide this annotation first so that you can also give a comment to what we have done here. So this one we are reading meeting data. So that is what we have done. So the next thing we want to unselect, and to do that we use a select tool. So we bring in a select tool and just connect there. So in this one we want to unselect all the other. We want to unselect these null columns. All these are null columns. So that is we want to unselect that. Then we have this column that don't have the name column, so we will rename that. We have this section where we rename. We want to keep it as here. That is here columns, and then go ahead and run. So that is what we have done. So these are now, we have now clean columns. We don't have now null columns. Then we have given the name to the here. So let me keep a comment to this. So this one is removing null columns and renaming columns. Moving null columns. So that's what we have done there. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to sample the data. Want to sample this data. Maybe you may want to sample the data for a specific period, maybe for a month or 2 months and so forth. So we want to go ahead and sample out the data from maybe July past. First of all, we have null, that is the null rows and columns. We have the null rows here. So from here we have the null rows. So we may want to do away with these null rows. So we can sample out the first items there. So we bring in a sample tool. So to sample out, we just go ahead and see where the null items start. So the null items start from this number of columns. So I'm going to sample out up to this number, that is 49.4. So I'm going to say the first end row, first end rows, and then the number of column here to specify. So that is where we start from. So when we run, we should have sampled out without the null rows. So let's scroll to the bottom and check. So you can see we no longer have now those null items. So The next thing, we also may want to sample out for a specific period. This one is, let me give a comment here. Sampling out null rows. So that is what we have done. We also want to sample out a specific period. So let's say we want to sample out for the last maybe 4 months. So we'll be using the month column and then also the date and then the year. So checking on this data, we want to sample out, let's say from July 1st to now. Let's say we want to sample out from July 1st, and then this is the column, and then we sample out from this column. That's 47, 3708. So we want to sample out from this to the bottom, the last information here to date. So we'll be subtracting this number from the previous number, that is from 49.4 to the other part. So when you subtract, you get a number there. So let me bring in another sample tool so that we see that. So we'll be saying we sample out the last n rows, and then this case I want to just bring in the different. So that is the last n rows. So we go ahead and run. So when you sample out, you say now we start from the 1st July. This is from 2nd July to current. So that is how to use sampling tool. So let me give a comment on what this one has done. So sampling out, sampling out data from July. So that is what we have done there. And then the next thing from this, we want now to go ahead and work on the name column. On this name column, you can see we only have one name. So we want to go ahead and introduce the second name. We want to have this name. We want to have first name and then the last name. So to do that, we are going to use a formula tool here. And then the formula tool will be defining, we'll be introducing the second name to each of these employees. We have these employees here, Robert, Emmanuel, so we'll be giving their name. So let me go ahead and do that. So select the, let me first of all select the name. That is the participant's name of participant. First of all, I may want to make it lowercase. Name of participant. So I want to go ahead and then select a column, which is the name of participant. So I'm going to write a formula. So that is, I'm going to use a formula if a name of participant, say maybe let me start with Robert. Robert 10, then give it as Robert Edemis. I want to introduce the second name. So then Robert Edemis, else if name of participant else if name of participant is maybe else if name of participant is, let's say, if it's Vincent, then give us Vincent. Introduce his name, his second name. I will be doing that. Okay, so let me check again this. So that is will be working like that. If name but one is Robert, then Robert it means else if name of participant is Vincent, then Vincent Kimeno. Else if let me have this one first. Let me try to arrange in a good way. So else if we continue with the other names, else if name of participant, name of participants is let's say next person here, Kasim. Then give us Kasim Sipuna. And then also else if name of participant is maybe Teresia. Then give us with the second name, and then also do the same else if name of participant let's say is Chris. And give us Chris Marcus. Else if want to rename all of them, else if a name of participant is, let's say if name of participant maybe it's Emmanuel. 10. Give us with the second name, Emmanuel Masakwa. Almost done. Add Steven also. Else if name of participant. Give us Steven Sakana. So else add name of participant and then hand it. So let's run and see if we have given the second name to all these names. So go ahead and run. So let's check on the output. The output on the name of participant. We have given the name to all this. So we have not left trace here, and then also consider a here into the other one. So we bring in the unique tool. We bring in a unique tool so that you will be able to see what we have not done. I'm going to bring in unique tool to this side. I'm going to specify the name. The name of participant. So let me add this one. Let me add this here. So else if name of participant. If else if name of participant is this here. And then give us the rest here only. So from there now, let's move on. So yeah, that is it. Let's go ahead and run. Now move on and look at the landing page.
So going to Tableau. So let's get to save it. So with Tableau open, we can go ahead and connect to the data first. So that is in Microsoft Excel, which are going to pick the meeting attendance tracker. So the data consists of a number of sheets, but for this case, we're only developing the meetings report. So we are going to go to it directly, which is this one. So we're going to click and drag it to the meeting. So now we have all of the data in place. That is for meetings only. So the first thing, the development of this report, we need to bring in the dashboard. I mean the wireframe. So let's go to. So this one, I'll just do it quickly. We'll learn the specifics as we start developing the dashboards. So now we have the wireframe in place. So as you can see from this one, we have a number of items, and some of these items you need to develop them, to work on them separately in sheets, while others you might need to, you just add them directly onto the dashboard. In our case, you're going to develop this type of meetings, the categorization and the count. Then you're also going to develop this button separate in a separate sheet. Then also the attendance summary side, and also now the meeting details side. So with that, let's get on it. And so we have the first sheet. So I'm going to name this one as a meeting type count. So for this, you want to just the number of meetings based on the type of meeting. So what you're going to do, you're going to bring in the participants. We're actually going to bring in the, let's say, the measure values or the measure names, because the number of meetings is a measure. So I'll bring it to text. Sorry, not to text. I'll bring it to columns. Wrong value. So measure values. So with measure values, then I can bring the meeting type on the rows. So I want just the number of meetings. Then you can change, actually with the fastest way, let me just redo this so it can be much clearer. So we'll bring the number of meetings onto the rows. Then it will bring in the meeting type onto the columns. Then you can change this into a table here. Then you're going to switch, then sort it out in ascending order. So what you're interested in, we just want the top 10. So again, you're going to come to the meetings date, or rather the meetings type, and bring it to filter. Then you want the top. So by field, I want just the top 10. Then I click apply. So okay. So this is what we're going to work with. So you can resize it. Can resize it slightly. Then let's format it. Just right click, then go to format. For the font, I want the header, the column header, to be bold. Slightly larger. Then for the pen, okay, sheet, then pen, I'll have it bigger, it's 15. Then make it dark, bold. All right, then you also want to add in the alignment. So I'll come here to alignment. So for the pen, I'll make it center. So also the header, I'll make it center. Then you also want to add in this divisions, rather the grids. So I'll add this. Then I want the row divider. All right. Then we'll just resize this. I think let's make it fit well. I'll just have top 9. So let me edit this filter. So top 9. So let's resize it. Okay, then looking at it at the wireframe, we can also hide that title. Then even make this a bit bigger. Okay, then if you look at the shading, so it's bluish. That is the pen side. So you'll have that. Go to shading. Then on the sheet side of the pen, we have it, give it a shade of blue. Okay, so that will be it. Then the next item that you want is now to add in attendance summary, which includes the name of participant, total meetings, and meeting rank. So let's go to another sheet, rename it to attendance summary. Then I want to have the name of participants, total meetings, and meetings rank. So for this, we're going to take the meeting name of participant, to draw. Then we also have the meetings, total number of meetings. So number of meetings. So have it here. Then, so let's first of all switch. Then you also want to bring this one to rows. Then you also want to have the rank. So for this one, you use the index. You just type in index. So which will give the specific rank. Then we change this one to table. So I'll bring this one here. So we want some of the meetings. So let's change this. Okay. So number of meetings. Then we have the index. Okay, so this is what is happening. So we need to bring in the name of the participants, name of participant. So again, we need to bring in the number of meetings, but we need to change from continuous to discrete. Then we bring in the index, then also make it discrete. Then you can bring just to remove this ABC on the text side. So with this, let's edit. We need also to sort it. Then let's have so at least to be visible. So you can also change this. Okay, so let's format it. So coming back, right click on it, then on format. So the font, we want to have it the header to be dark. Then let's add in some borders. The row divider. Okay. Okay, so with this, let's now go to the next one. So the next item is the meeting details. So again, I go to a new sheet, then give it meeting details. Then we want to view the meeting date, name of participant, participant's position, meeting facilitator, and the topic. So we'll start with the meeting. So meeting date, I'll bring it to the rows. So I'll show the exact date. Then I'll choose this a discrete. Then also to bring in I want to bring in also the name of participant and the participant's position. So participant's name, then the participant's position. Then I also want to bring in a meeting facilitator and meeting topic. Facilitator, meeting topic. Then the last one being a meeting duration. So meeting duration. So we can now go ahead and format this. So right click on it, then format. So the font, the rows, okay, the sheet, the header. Okay, then we add in the grid. Then let's add in the grid. Remove this just to make it not as bold. Then let's add in the grid. Okay, then let's resize it slightly. Okay, now the next thing, this one is okay. Then the next item that you want to work on is the button. So I'm going to click a new sheet. Then I call it executive. So I'm going to use a calculated field. So executive. And the text I want to appear is executive overview, then okay. Then I want to bring it to the rows. This, and add an icon. Okay, arrows. Apply. Okay. So let's resize it. Just format it. So font. Then so with that in place, again you can go to the wireframe, confirm everything. So now you can we can start off on the main parts. For the wireframe, so for this one, I'm going to click on the new dashboard icon. Okay. So I'm going to rename it as meetings attendance. So meeting attendance report. So to create the dashboard, we have tools that you can use under object and also sheet that we created on the other side. So we bring in the horizontal object. Since you don't have to keep on scrolling, go to automatic. Then we also want to subdivide this the main container, into a number of parts that we have in our wireframe. Like you have the top one, the first, then you have this one second, then the gray part third, then this one fourth, and now the one holding this part as fifth. So let's go to those and subdivide it in those 5 parts. So to subdivide, you need to bring in a blank object. So I'm going to click on blank and drag it and drop it here. Then to subdivide, I'm going to use the vertical object. And for this, you make sure selecting the right side. So you want to subdivide it into 5 equal parts. So 1, 2. So those are 5 parts. So let's add in some border, at least to differentiate this. So add in border. Then you remove the blank object. So let's again resize this. Add the filter. All right. Then looking at the wireframe again, the top part is subdivided into 3 parts, sorry. However, you have the one holding the logo, the title section, and the one with the download option. So let's again do that. So bring again the blank object here, then horizontal one. So we want 3 parts. So we adjust. Let's add in some border so that you can be able to see, and adjust this. Okay, and then the second part from the wireframe. Sorry, let's first of all remove the blank object. Here it is. Then from this, the second row subdivided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. So let's divide it also that way. So again, you come to dashboard, blank, then subdivide into 5 parts. So let's add in the borders. And remove the blank object. Okay, then the third one is not subdivided any further. This one is not subdivided. Also, for the fourth one, you're not going to subdivide it because you're just bringing in the data as it is in neat format. So you're not going to subdivide it any further. Then the last one is subdivided into 2. So let's bring it to a blank object here, then divide into 2. So let's add in the border. So we adjust this, then remove the blank. Okay, so with this now, we can start bringing the items. So we're going to start off with the logo on the top left corner. So for this, you're going to use the image object. So let's bring in the image object. So it prompts you to choose an image and fit. Okay. Add in some border. The next part is the title. And as you can see from the frame, the background is different. So let's have that also catered for. In fact, we just have the whole of it to be much better. So for this one, we're going to go to title. So we want the section that is holding all the 3. Then now let's change the background. Okay. Then the middle section is have some text. That is the title. So I'm going to text object there. So it will prompt me to enter some text. I'm going to resize it. Center it. Make this one smaller. Then change the color. I want this one to be bold. Okay. Then we are going to also give this shading of gray. So let's go to layout, then background. Background, we need a shade of gray. Okay. Then you bring in this the meetings count, meeting type count to here. Then you want to fit the entire view. We hide this title. Okay. Then we want also to bring to ensure that you have the filters in place. So for the filters, we come to the meetings, attendance details. So we want to have filters pertaining to so let's see the wireframe. We want the name of participants, participants position, and meeting type. So name of participant, to use all, meeting type, then we want meeting date, then a facilitator, then finally we have participants position, yes, participant position. Okay. So once you do that, now you can come back to the report. So we click and drag, first of all, the summary, bring it here. Then you want to fit the width. Then summary. Then we bring in the meeting details. Also want to fit the width. Meeting details. So, so just adjust this. Okay, then also give it a background, the title, shading, gray. You can add in some border. Okay, then we also want to bring in those filters. So we start with the name of participant. So it has come here, so we don't want to leave it blank. So we come to bring a horizontal there. Then I can bring it to the right place. Then the next one is participant position. The next one is a meeting type and meeting date. Then the final one is the meeting facilitator. Meeting facilitator. Okay, so let's fit them all first. So come to tiled. So right click, distributes contents evenly. Then I also want to bring in the button. So we want to bring it as a floating one. So this is the executive button. So we'll have it here. Then resize it. Okay, then I bring in the download also as floating, rather not floating. I want to bring it styled. So let's format it. Okay. Then the next thing you want to do is to format these filters. So first of all, enter a single drop down. Now format it. So select participant. So I'm going to center it. Adjust that. Then you have a different background for this. So let's locate the container. And the background. Okay. A landing page. So testing. So for this one, how to test, we are going to go through, we are going to review the landing page requirements. Then also we do the landing page test scenarios. Then we're going to go through the landing page test scripts, then finally do the test validations. So those scripts, remember when you're doing before you start even development of this, before you start the development of this report, we had requirements that were set out, we went through the PBR session. So now what we want to do, we have gone through the requirements, we have developed the report. Now we want to test if these requirements have actually been met. So that's the purpose of this section. And what are some of the test scenarios? So the test scenarios, what test scenarios are, they just they outline what needs to be tested. In our case, they're just echoing what the requirements were. So like here we have to validate data, the test scenario is to validate that we have the company logo at the top left corner and the report title beside it. Then to validate data, we have a description of the report below the title and the last updated on the top left corner. Then to validate data, the landing page contains a button named Employee Productivity Overview that connects to Employees Productivity Report. So these are the outlined test scenarios, but let's look at that document and see how they actually come out. So we have the test scenarios document, which is right here. So as you can see, the test scenarios basically echoes the requirements that were set out. Like we have the requirement was have a company logo at the top left corner and the report logo and the report title beside the logo. So now you want to test if this one has actually been done. So one of the things to the test scenario here is to validate that we have company logo. To validate that you have the company logo at the top left corner of the report, at the top left corner and the report title beside the logo. So this test scenario is positive because it's looking for something that could be in existence. Then the number of scripts is 1, then definitely the person will be testing and the reviewer will also be enlisted there. So the same goes to all of the test scenarios we're going to create pertaining to the different requirements. Like what you have here to validate that you have a description of the report below the title and the last updated on the top left corner. To validate that the landing page contains a button named Employee Productivity Overview that connects employee productivity, that employees to connect to Employee Productivity Overview report. So for this case, you're just going to use the first one, which is to validate that you have a company logo at the top left corner and the report title beside the logo. So once you have outlined the test scenarios, you want now to come up with the test scripts. And what test scripts are, they basically just outline the steps you're going to take when conducting this test. So if you're going to validate that we have the company logo at the top left corner and the report title beside it, what steps are you going to follow through to ensure that you're testing this? So those steps are what we call the test script. And we have here a test script of what we created, whereby the test description is that to validate that we have the company logo at the top left corner and the report title beside the logo. So the test steps here are, first thing is open the employee Tableau report for landing page, then check on the top left corner for logo, for coder logo and title beside it. So the same case also, when you have the second test scenario, to validate that you have a description of the report below the title and the last updated on the top right corner. So again, we open the employees Tableau report for landing page, then observe if we have a description below the title and the last updated date on the top right corner. So this is what we're going to follow through. This is just a section of the test script. But what is a fully fledged test script look like? So let's go ahead and get to look at it. So a fully fledged test script. So this one has a number of items whereby we define the story ID, which just talks about which no more or less points to the requirement ID or the story ID that we used in the requirement. Then the sprint number. We also have the test script name. This one pertains to employee productivity. Then the test description. The test description is we are describing the test scenario or just reiterating the test scenario. Then now we outline the test steps. What are you going to follow when you're testing this particular requirement? Then we have the expected results. When developing this report, we expect that as much as you're testing for the presence of this title and the logo and the report title beside it, we expect that the expectation that they're going to be present. So that is the expected result. Company logo, name below it, and at the top left corner and beside have a report title available. So that is the expected results for this. But now when you test, you need to come and report what your what the outcome was. So because it might be different from the expected result was. So like this one, so that we felt it earlier. So just a minute. So this one is usually blank because we will be testing, we'll want to determine, we'll come and give the results of that test. Did they really find those values there or they did not? So now it will be, we'll be able to follow through. So like in our case, what we're testing is, we are testing the scenario that to validate that we have the company logo at the top left corner and the report title beside it. So the steps to follow through is to open the employee Tableau report for landing page, then check on the top left corner for Coda logo and the title beside it. So let's see if that is going to happen. But now it's just not a matter of looking at it and then saying they exist. You need to provide some evidence. So how do you provide evidence that this report has actually been checked and has been tested? So with this now, we go ahead and we use what you call the test validations. And the test validation is just a report. It's just another report that gives us gives the evidence of what you have actually done. So in this one, we outline the tests that we're going to conduct. We are going to do that test in accordance to the test script. Then take the screenshots of those expected sites or the expected. If you're looking for the logo and the title, then if we see it, we just need to take the screenshot and identify them. So let's look at how a test validation looks like. So this is the test validation. So as you can see from the test validation, we want to do, sorry. So with the test validation, we want to achieve, so let me share the screen. So from this, we have the story ID, which are picked from the test script. We have the test validation to validate that, or we have the test script, which in the test scenario, which is to validate that we have the company logo at the top left corner and beside it have a report title. The notice will be the result. So the result is going to that report as per the test script and checking if those values exist. So we're checking for two things. We're checking for the company logo on the top left corner, and beside it, we have the report title. So when you go back to our report now, which is this, the Tableau report. So let me share it. So this is what we have created shortly. So we are looking to ensure that we have the report title and the logo, the logo that is on the top left, and the report title beside it. So as you can see from here, we actually have the logo, which is this one, and you also have the report title beside it. So in one or another, that just validation has passed, but we need to provide evidence. So how do we provide evidence? We take a screenshot of this one. So we take a screenshot using the snipping tool. So go to new. So we just take it here and cut it, then copy. Then we go now to Paint. So let's search for Paint. So we go to Paint. Okay, let me share it so that you can see. So what you want to do is to bring that screenshot that we took and paste it here. So I'm going to paste. Then I just want to indicate what I've seen. And what you have seen is the logo. So we are going to use these shapes. So let's give it a bright color. Okay. So now you can go ahead and indicate here that indeed there's a logo. And on top of that, we have the report description. I mean, the report title here. Which you can be able to use. So that one means that that report has, test has passed. So again, we need to take this screenshot of these indications. So again, we're going to use the snipping tool. Then this one allows us to copy. Then now, this evidence is provided now taken to the test validation tool. I mean to the validation document. So when you come here, we can see we have the test result. So that evidence you have been able to copy it. So just come and paste it. First of all, the result is a pass. So indicate there is a pass. Let's give it a shading. Then now we add the evidence, which is that image, as you can see. Then also you need to provide the timestamp. At what time have you done this? Has this test been done? So you just come to your computer and take the screenshot of the current time. So I'm going to go to this, again, use the snipping tool, new, then come and snip out the time, which my time is 5 p.m. on July 6, 2021. Then copy again. Then copy, then come here at the timestamp and paste. So now you have been able to validate that requirement. I mean, that test, and that test has passed. So it's not yet done for that requirement, for that test scenario. So you go back to the test script and to the test script. And now to the test script, what have you found out? You have found out that the expected result is what is the actual result. So you come copy and then paste it here. Then you define the status. The status is this is a pass. So you don't have any defect, and the tester, you indicate your name there if you're the tester. So now after that, you move on to the next test scenarios you need to test. And you follow the same procedure, indicating what you've seen and providing that evidence on the test validation document. So once you have tested everything, and now you have ensured that now report is correct and it is working as required. And from what you have here, now you can go ahead and consider deploying this report. So let me share. So when you go back to a report, now we can go ahead and share this. We can go ahead and upload this report for consumption, because you have done three things. We have moved from defining those requirements, doing a gap analysis to ensure that there are no gaps through the PBR session, voting and assigning time in the planning program. We have developed that report. We have carried out a testing on that report. Now, since everything else has passed, we can go ahead and deploy it. But if it happens that something misses, it means you have to go back to development and start developing it. But now, since everything has passed, we can go ahead and deploy this report. And how do we deploy it? From Tableau here, we just come to server on the menu bar. Then you go to Tableau public. Then you want to save to Tableau public as. So click on it. So it will prompt you to get the credentials for this. So let me fetch them, because you must have a Tableau public account for you to be able to upload. So if you go here, so the email, I'll add that. Then also the password, I'll add it. So the password. So just before that, let's change something. Before we upload, we need to shift from the automatic size. Rather from automatic, we have it as fixed. Then you can have also a device preview, because people will be viewing this report in different devices. So you can have the default is what we have here. So like if you're using a desktop, you can be able to see how it will be viewed. So we just change that aspect of being in automatic size. So now you can go ahead and upload it. So server, Tableau public, then save to Tableau public as. So the email here. Email.com. Then the password, then we sign in. Okay, so Tableau complaining. Oh yeah, so we need first, before we upload, we need to provide a data extract for this. And how we do that, we come to, so we can come to data. We can come to data menu bar. We need to provide the extract because they're uploading it. We come to data. Then on the last option, we go to extract data. Then you choose the defaults and you click on extract. So you can just save it on the default choice as prompted. Then you go ahead now and upload it. So how to upload it? You go to server, then Tableau public, save Tableau public as. So now you've since already entered the values, we are going to save this one as we give it a name, landing page. Then we click on save. So that was taken us to Tableau Public. Let me share it. Now our report now is in the Tableau Public, as you can see. Okay, so from here you can do a number of things. You can update it, you can edit it to some extent. So like we can come and say edit if you need to make some few changes. You can see this one. So you can go ahead and edit it in a way that that you want. So with that, you can just close this. Don't save. So now this report being in Tableau Public, it means now anybody can be able to access it, whoever needs to view it. So how do you get that? You can share the link here. You can click here, then just copy this link. And if you go and provide another button and provide the enter into a URL, it will take you to that. It will take you to that specific report. Okay. So up to that point, that's where we have reached. That's the end of our presentation.